to just kind of give Anthony an opportunity to do a little bit more explaining, especially like where they're going with Koala Bottle. And for anybody that hasn't been here for the other 3 interviews now, we're talking about his really cool magnetic clip on the bottle that is revolutionizing the way people are able to cycle and quickly get to their water bottles so that they can focus on staying upright and not falling, I guess. Is that a big part of biking?
Yeah, I think it's the ease of use, whether running or cycling. Get the bottle in and out quickly and just keep going.
Right, awesome.
Yeah.
So what I want to know is you started just thinking about this in 2010, you launched a product in 2012, now you're in how many different countries?
It sells all over the world.
That's awesome.
Just on any, random day, orders will come in from Europe, South America, Canada,
That's
Japan.
amazing.
Yeah. I've shifted all over the world. It's pretty awesome.
See, and I'm so vain. If it were me, I would just like put my face on the side of this, because like I want my face to be traveling all over the world.
Right. Well, I think people will find a koala bear more adorable than me.
No. Well, that's awesome. So, what is the next big thing? Like you've already done so much. You're right at a place where you feel like you're kind of you know the market. You can. I'm sure you follow your numbers monthly and know exactly what your sales are doing.
Yeah.
So what's the next big goal for you guys?
The next big goal is to get the belt out there. It's a bigger market. It's a more active market. And so the goal is really to, over the next 6 months, build up the web presence, get the e-commerce going for this, and to pick up a couple of distributors in Canada and the United States for the belts. And Koala Bottle now isn't just a product, it's a brand. And so I think that the growth phase will accelerate.
Right.
So, some stores, there are stores that have been interested in Koala Bottle, some big stores, but the selling point is that you can have a standalone area in a store. I think whether you're a distributor or a large box retailer, they want to sell a brand. They don't want to sell a product because those stores put a lot of resources behind the products that they carry and marketing and advertising them, and you're taking up space that another brand could take. So, this having the running belt and adapting the technology to that market is going to really help Koala Bottle accelerate and find new markets.
Yeah. So have you already thought about, even past the running belt, what that next athletic piece would be?
I have.
You probably not going to put that out there just yet?
Not yet.
That's cool. That's exciting. So as far as your team personnel, I know that you've been able to do so much of this on your own because you have those kind of resources and you just have a brain that works like that. What do you see in terms of like eventual team to come alongside you and really help push this to the next level?
I think the next level, I would like Koala Bottle in the next year or two to be at least a 5 to 10 member team from sales, marketing, and developing new products. One more engineer. Obviously a lot of this resources can be outsourced, as I have done, but there is definitely room as this grows and Koala Bottle becomes more profitable and generates more revenue to bring on a sales rep that can manage. We could have an in-house salesperson that manages the independent sales rep team.
Right.
So there are companies out there that independently rep brands and products, but it would be nice to have a salesperson in-house that manages that aspect of it, and probably that salesperson would also manage inventory and making sure that we have the stock to fill orders and work with our sales team.
Cool.
Yeah,
I love that. I mean, it's funny because the Anchor, we're almost the opposite model. Like, we have tons of people, and we're just now, getting to a place where we can see some pretty decent, stable, I guess it would be product, but it's a service more than anything. What we're trying to do is so different. So I always admire people that can do so much more with fewer people. Even though I love my team, and I love having my 8 interns and my 4 other people that are able to help out. because for us it's telling that story, so we need as many people out on the ground telling the story as possible, but that's just a different model. That's just a lot more work to keep up. What do you see entrepreneurship being in terms of like the out-of-the-box thinking opportunities that not a lot of people think about? Like, I think there's services, there's products, there's there's medicine, there's so many different things you can do and patent and hold as your own. Like, I mean, are there any areas out there that you think there might be a creative type that maybe they're not thinking about where they can, go off on their own and do something cool with it?
It's hard to answer that question specifically, but I think that, the whole root of any entrepreneurship or coming up with an idea is based upon your experiences. Mm-hmm. So the more experiences you have in life, the more you have to draw from. And I think the most important thing in developing, if you're talking about developing a new product specifically, you have to ask yourself, are you solving a problem? Mm-hmm. How are you improving upon what already exists?
Right.
And so I think that for anybody who might be in school studying chemistry, or who, or who might be in culinary school. Somebody in culinary school might make an improvement on the spatula. They might think of it from a food standpoint, like I'm going to invent the next cupcake or something. Yeah. But it might be completely opposite. That student in culinary school might come up with a better way of designing some tool in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard for me to advise any entrepreneur about low-hanging fruit out there. Mm-hmm. But all I can say is, be aware of what you're doing and what's out there. What you're doing.
Something is available that might not be available, like currently. Like there's all kind of random holes that open up in the market, mm-hmm. and I think sometimes we get caught up in this whole, I don't understand how to get from point A to point B, and kind of like what you did. I mean, you don't necessarily have to go out and learn CAD. That's a little extreme, which is awesome that you did, by the way. I love that. But, I mean, there's people out there. There's something very great to say about networking and why we are trying to promote a community of people who are very curious and creative. You have to be able to, like, throw weird ideas out and be okay with the fact that, like, somebody might be like, no, that's stupid. But, I think there's a side to this that you're not thinking about, and then, maybe modify your plan a little bit. So I think that's what we're trying to do. And your story fits in so well with that because, I think there's a lot of different ways to make your name. And you can even do well in freelance. I mean, there's so many different ways to use your talents.
There are. And then the big what if out there is no matter how ingenious and novel an idea is, you never know what is going to grab hold in the marketplace.
Right.
You really don't. I mean, Chia Pet. Yeah. The pet rock.
I thought that thing was going to die.
The Rubik's Cube.
So early. I know.
The Rubik's Cube was an overnight sensation.
Yeah.
And it's
you can name a star now, and that person made a lot of money.
So, yeah, I think I remember reading a story on Yahoo a couple years ago about a guy who sold envelopes full of glitter. Or something, and like you opened it up and the envelope exploded, and he sold thousands of them, and he figured out, how am I going to package all these envelopes full of glitter and mail them around the world? I mean, you read about random stuff all the time and you ask yourself, here you are banging your head against the wall, trying to reinvent the wheel or come up with something fantastic that's going to, change the lives of thousands and thousands of people, and then you read about some person who's stuffing glitter into envelopes, making, thousands of dollars.
I mean, yeah. I think a big part of that is risk-taking. I think there is something to say about people that, put themselves out there. It is kind of crazy. A lot of people will go 6 or 7 companies in bankruptcy before they hit something that works, and that's hard to swallow. I don't think a lot of people want to even think about doing that.
And that's
it's not for everybody.
And that's the whole thing about entrepreneurship is experiencing, because through every experimentational process, you develop a skill. You actually learn something. It might have failed, and most any graduate student who ever wrote a doctorate or a master's student who wrote a thesis, a lot of these days, a lot of ideas are taken, and so a lot of graduate students are just trying to disprove the theories of others.
Yeah.
And it's all about learning. You can have a thesis or a doctorate dissertation that's, well, this doesn't work, but you've saved somebody else the trouble of going down that rabbit hole, and you've learned something in the process too.
Yeah, so that is something I wanted to ask you anyways. Out of all this time that you've been working on this, what is the one big thing, one big lesson learned that you would like to try differently next time? I mean, and I know that's hard to even put into words because we learn so much from those mistakes that we can like turn into positives, but what would be that one thing if it were a younger Anthony? Like, you know, how would you advise that person?
So you and I kind of talked about this earlier. There, especially in today's world where everything's happening so quickly, there's this thought that if you're an entrepreneur and you come up with a great idea, you have to rush to market right away and get it out there. And I would just, if I were talking to myself a couple of years ago, if I had the opportunity to go back, I would have taken more time with it. I think the product is great where it is, but I made some mistakes along the way, and luckily I was able to recover from those mistakes.
Right.
But I would say take your time with it and really massage it and make sure it's ready.
Yeah.
And don't feel like, and people, there's this sense that if you tell people who've been working on something and you have this great idea and they think it's great, they say, well, how come millions of people don't have it already? What's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with your idea. It's just when you're doing something organically and you have an idea, it's a big world and there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
So just take your time with it, and when you feel it's ready, launch.
Right. Yeah, and lean on your resources. Lean on those honest people that you're going to collect in your database to be able to be honest with you, so you know when the time's right. And I think there's something to be said too for, you know, sometimes it's like you're either the type of person that's kind of trigger happy, or, you know, you're pulling back an arrow for a bow and arrow and you're just like, you know, it's like aim, and you're holding it too long, you know, like there is a sense where you need to propel. And I think that's something that we also want to help encourage, that there are people, especially in the Midlands, who are in the same boat. It's a scary, scary world. You're going to hate yourself most of the time. There's just a lot of periods that you have doubt. But, you know, I think knowing that resource network is there can help to take that first big step. And then it does get easier. I think it's a lot like having a newborn when I talk to my friends that have newborns. Like, they love this kid and it's beautiful and amazing and they can't imagine the world without it, but they cry every day.
It does. It does get easier.
The
process of developing the hydration belt was a lot easier process. The belt actually took almost twice as long as the regular product, but it was a smoother process and less mistakes were made along the way because I was very more thoughtful, methodical about the development process.
That's cool. So you're building on concepts and making it work now. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have any last words, especially for people that are, you know, trying to figure out how to make that first step? Like any real like grounding ideas or objectives that they should probably focus on first?
I think you have to have a great idea. I really do. You know, if you have a great idea, you're going to recover from stumbling. You know, if you take a step back, you always have that great idea that you're working on, and you can recover from it. And so going back to the beginning of our conversation, test out your idea in the simplest way you can. And if you have a good idea and you've proven it to yourself, that's the first step.
That's cool. And I don't think a lot of people realize you can actually use USC for some of this. Like they have business classes and groups of people that are set aside for testing, for product placement and ideas. I
audited a class.
Oh, really?
I audited a first-year engineering class at USC to learn for CAD. I had my own software, but I thought that maybe I could speed up the process a little, so I called the engineering school and they let me audit a class. It was great. You know, I'm an alumni, but it was fantastic just sitting in that class for a few weeks, having already dipped my toes into it, it really accelerated me forward quickly.
Cool. Yeah, and you can audit classes. I think people don't realize that you can audit classes. I would love to do that more often in all my free time. But yeah, that's good information. So as always, we want to let you guys know how to find Koala Bottle. What is the website?
Koalabottle.com.
Okay, koalabottle.com. That's easy. And this is kind of the general setup for that. It's just a nice magnet, and it pulls from the bottom. It's really, really tough. We didn't even get into that. Like, he has all these videos on his website of mountain bikers running or like biking down hills and going over all kind of weird, rough terrain, and these bottles sticking with it. I think there might be an idea for some kind of fun viral video down the road on how can we get these things to come loose. So they're going to work. They won't fall off, which is really awesome that you came up with something that works like that. And I think I read that other people have tried to do something similar, and yours actually works. And you've been, acclaimed for that, which is awesome. Congrats.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's exciting. And then we want to thank the guys at Craft and Draft for letting us use their awesome place. We love to come and have beer with them and support them any way we can. So we're right here on Divine Street. You guys come check them out. And we'll see you guys in about 2 weeks for the next Startup Spotlight. Have a good one.